So what did I think about Scottie Pippen saying that if Steph Curry played in the 90s, by the way the rules were then, he wouldn't make it, but it depends on the times. Well, duh, Captain Obvious. Scottie Pippen always got a lot to say. Most of it is comedy and bitter and sour grapes. He must forgot that Steph's father Dale did pretty good back in the day. My dude Raul did pretty well too. Could shoot that three ball. There was 3-point shooters. It wasn't to the extreme of today. But, you never know based on offense. Granted, when we get to defense in the postseason, that's a different ball game. But I'm sure cats could make adjustments. I mean, obviously, there's got to be a bit of sour grapes because people have to sit at home and watch Steph Curry sashay and do his thing. And he changed the course of basketball when you had what I call playerless positions. Basically, guys, well, Jordan and Pippen were notorious for that if you think about it, because they rotated and they were stretches in the triangle. You imagine if Steph Curry was in the triangle. Think about that for a moment. How would that have worked with a Phil Jackson type of coach? Because he did compare him to my dude Raul, and Raul could flat out shoot that thing, and he was quick. So it'd have been interesting. It would have been interesting. I don't think Steph Curry would have had a problem with scoring. I just think that it wouldn't have been as hype because you had cats like Fat Lever and guys like that, and Eric Sleepy Floyd. You had guys back in the 80s, 90s who could score. Actually, the 90s basketball was kind of like the dead ball era because they pushed more defense. But, now will he get off and be like, debated as a top 10 player and all the high accolades? That's debatable. But then again, we did have guys like Isaiah Thomas who held back scoring because defense was more pushed. I think that's what Scottie Pippen need to say. Yeah, when you talk about the way the rules were, but the NBA today is more Euro step, more, freelancers. So it's a different era way of basketball. So, but Scotty, when he says that Steph Curry would have a hard time back in the day, well, yeah, there's some truth, but then again, we don't know. We really don't know. We can't really say for sure because he might win a ring, you know, and he might not. But again, it depends on how who he plays for, the system he's with, and what's going on. I do know that teams that played a certain way, the defenses were allowed to, invade more. You think about what Phoenix did with Steve Nash. That didn't win. That style didn't win. Harden style didn't win. So, but then again, Steph Curry changed and elevated the game differently, and with Klay Thompson. So we don't know. We can't. We can only speculate. I mean, they wouldn't. Would they be as dominant as they would have been back then? I don't think they quite would have been. But I'm not gonna say Steph would have been not been a